So, hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about sleep restriction, and I'm here with my colleague Catherine, who is kindly going to go through an example as if she's a client who we're working through a sleep restriction kind of exercise with. So, what we would do to start is just ask. So, Catherine, tell me about your sleep routine at the moment. When are you going to sleep? In a kind of example night, doesn't have to be completely accurate, but what is your sleep pattern like at the moment?
So currently I'm getting into bed about 9 p.m.
Okay.
I'm kind of awake for about an hour or so, and then I try to go to sleep about 10. I do find that most nights I'm waking up around kind of 1 a.m. And then I'm laying there awake for a few hours, probably till around 3-ish. I try not to look at my clock, but it's difficult. And then I do get back to sleep, but normally till around 6. I think my brain likes to preempt my alarm at 7, and then I kind of lay there for around an hour, and then I get up. So that's probably the normal at the moment.
Yeah. So from what we can so I've been writing down the kind of times that Catherine's mentioning, because then we can work out how long she's in bed for and how long of that time she is asleep for. So Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, you said you go to bed at 9 and you wake up at 7. You get out of bed at 7. Okay, so that is 10 hours. So it's 10-hour block that we've got at the bottom. But then if we look at how much of that time Catherine is actually asleep for, so she's got 3 hours here and she wakes up for 2 hours, and then there's another 3 hours here. So even though Catherine's in bed for quite a good amount of time, 10 hours, she's only sleeping for 6 of those hours. So what we like to work out with sleep restriction, and the goal of sleep restriction is to improve your sleep efficiency. So even though Catherine's in bed for 10 hours, she's only sleeping for 6 of those hours, which means overall her sleep efficiency, or you can think of it as time in bed and asleep, is 60%. So what we would try and aim for is 85%. That would be really good to aim for. So I'll put that up in green at the top, green for good. And then anything less than that is when we would look at some more techniques that we're going to get into now. So Catherine's in the 60%, which is in the kind of red here. So what I would suggest to Catherine to do is, so if you're actually only getting 6 hours sleep, what we would do in sleep restriction is try and kind of knit together those different blocks. So try and squeeze these together to kind of get you back into the habit of sleeping for longer continuous periods of time. So what we would do is get you to go to sleep at around, so if it's 6 hours, and so if you normally wake up at about 7, your alarm goes off at 7. Let's say that your new so you're going to go get up at 7, and then we'll go back 6 hours to reduce the time that you have in bed. So that would mean that your new kind of bedtime, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, can be extreme, but if you go to bed at 1 o'clock, so this purple region here, that is going to be the best way to help retrain you to sleep through the night. How do you feel about doing that, Catherine?
I feel like going to sleep at 1 a.m. is going to be a bit of a push for me because I like
Mm,
I like getting into bed. Maybe what would be better, I could get up at 6 a.m. That is normally when I wake up. So maybe if we set it back from 7 to
yeah,
6 and then I can go to bed an hour earlier, maybe.
that's a really good idea. So I'll just erase all of this now that we've seen it. But it's helpful to think if your kind of body rhythm is already used to getting up at 6 o'clock, then absolutely maybe sticking with that is a good idea. And then going to bed at midnight maybe doesn't feel quite as bad. But there you go, you've got your 6 hours kind of nice and condensed. So what kind of might happen to start with is this might end up being quite tricky. So you might still wake up, if you're used to waking up at 1, perhaps you'll wake up at 1 for a little bit. But eventually it might take, a week or two to kick in. Eventually you'll start to see that you're able to sleep for longer and longer in this period. And so how we would kind of monitor this is by going back to these kind of numbers in the top, making sure that you're sticking to around 85% sleep efficiency. So if this is working really well, so for example, I'll come over in a different color. Say you're going to bed at midnight and you're sleeping all the way through the night till 6. That's then 100% because you're sleeping the whole time that you're in bed. And if you're at this stage, we'd say you can add 15 minutes to your total time in bed. So that would mean moving your bedtime forward to around 11:45. So then you've got a little bit of extra time that you can sleep in. Well, you can add a bit of extra sleep. And then again, you see how this went for a couple of weeks, keep assessing how you're sleeping. And then it could be that you add another 15 minutes and then kind of another 15 minutes until you reach a total sleep time that you feel comfortable with.
Okay. Do I have to do this every day, including the weekends?
That's a really good question, and I'm sorry to tell you that yes, you do. Especially, I think at the weekends, people like to have a lie-in, and maybe getting up at 6 o'clock might feel a bit hard at the weekends. But the way kind of how sleep routines work is we need to get into the habit of doing them, and we need to train our bodies that this is always time when we go to sleep, and this is always time when we wake up in the morning. But that doesn't mean that perhaps you might spend that extra time in the morning and the weekends still doing something that's relaxing, and it could still be restful for you. So that could be just perhaps reading a book, just maybe having a relaxing kind of morning, making yourself a nice breakfast. You can still use that time to do something nice and that's still relaxing. And you might be a little bit sleepy, and that's okay. But if you can stick with that morning time of 6 a.m., that will get you the best results for your sleep and overall.
Okay.
Cool. I don't think there's anything else to add to that.
No, I don't think so. Coming out of client mode,
Yeah.
I guess it's important to think about as well that if you guys have specific things you have to be up for in the morning, if you work early, if you're driving long distances and things like that, obviously you are going to be tired from restricting your sleep in this way. So if possible, try and start this around a time that is safe for you. We don't want to jeopardize that. So just bear in mind what your schedule is and what responsibilities you have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say that's all really.
Yeah, and with responsibilities as well, you can think about what is also coming up in the next couple of months for you. For example, like if you have children or if you're a teacher at a school, maybe doing this in the school holidays might be easier for you because you have a little bit more time. You don't have to get up to take the kids to school or something in the morning. So it might be easier to look at what's coming up for you in life and picking a time when you can give this a couple of months to give it a go. For example, if you're a student and you've got exams coming up, I wouldn't recommend trying to change your sleep cycle around that time. Just stick with what you have until you can kind of get through those events and then have a go. But yeah, stick with it, I think, is the main thing.